Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm Kevin Nealon. Our top story tonight, it appears congratulations are in order. We are monitoring things closely as details continue to come in, but it seems, yes, I have confirmation. We're talking about you, Joseph. Congratulations. You really outdid yourself this time, which probably wasn't that hard. Our team has discovered footage from one of the many celebrations taking place in your honor. Stay away from drugs, kids. Now for some deeper analysis, let's go live via satellite to our special guest commentator, Other Kevin. Other Kevin, what are your thoughts on all this? Speechless, Kevin. Wow. Just wow. Insightful as always. Thank you. Well, I'm now being told that we are out of time and that I should pull this lever. I'm Kevin Nealon. Thanks for watching. Take care, Jimmy. Thanks, Bob.
Joseph JAFFE is not famous. Me, Tom Arnold, I am very famous. I absolutely like, because it's very true. Like, I hadn't freaking heard of you until I was sitting on a Friday night. This is how bad my life is. Listen, fucker, good luck. Good luck with your rebranding. Like anybody knew what the name was before. What was the name? Okay, who gives a shit? That's a good name because it's got your name in it. You can pretend you're humble. You say, I'm not famous. And, which you aren't. So you're just, I mean, anyway, but I hope you get famous doing this. Good luck to you.
This is my best kind of show notes. We didn't touch one of them, not even one of them. I'm not sure which one is Paul Rudd and which one is Lane Green.
Final card here is the ultimate outcome.
Today is take your dog to work day.
Oh, like Scooby-Doo.
Without further ado, his debut.
Sweet Caroline.
Everybody say hello to Sammy. Is it not good?
I'm just pausing so that you just are at the front of your screen.
I'm so enormously flattered.
Branding is not a bad blind date.
I'm gonna have to take a picture of this.
No, this is agape. This is love.
I really enjoyed this. You did do your homework. You asked great questions.
I'm flattered. Thank you. You just made my day.
Look at you! You are insane.
How did I do that?
You're
How
insane.
did I do that?
You're insane.
Well, it is July 20th, 2022. Lots of twos. T for two and two for T. Me for you and you for me. I am back in the US and returned from my trip in South Africa. Loved doing the show in South Africa in between all of these load shedding, rolling blackouts. It is insane. It is insane. Just appreciate your electricity, your power, your utilities, your water. It's amazing all the things that we take for granted, but I'm back. Sammy is here, is making a little appearance. You saw him in the credits, and he will no doubt bark at the most ill-opportune time, and then I will mute myself, and then I will forget to unmute myself. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, I am not famous and hopefully never will be. Lubna is here. We say hello to our correspondent on Tuesday. Not only do we say hello to her, but she's actually crouching Lubna, hidden Jaru in the green room, hanging out with Joshua B. Lee and myself. And we are happy to be with you. I had a great time in South Africa. Well, not so great, but I was visiting my mom who hasn't been well, but great in terms of quality time together. You know, I'm trying to be a good son and be with her as often as I can. We'll see if she's watching, because she always gives me one word that just says watching. You know, she is a woman of few words. Unlike me, I am a man of many, many words. And how did that door close by itself? There must be a ghost. I think it might have been my daughter cooperating and collaborating. Here is Bez. Bez is in the house. Hello to you, my friend. And, for all of our regulars, as you know, there is some JAFFE coin to be given away. And it should be there. In fact, it will be there if I can figure out how to click on my mouse without moving my hand. Ta-da! There we go. You are now getting, I actually have no idea how much you're getting. I forget what I put in today. I think it's half a JAFFE coin. So you put that down payment on your Lambo, Gino, because you're one step closer towards getting a little bit of coin. And we do this every single show. What makes it so interesting and I think special is the fact that you need to actually be a fan, which means you need 10 JAFFE coin in order to get JAFFE coin. So it's all part of this holding economy. And we are going to talk to Joshua B. Lee and find out what he is doing with the SOA coin, which is as opposed to the SOL coin, which stands for shit out of luck. But you are in luck with Joshua B. Lee because he is the dopamine dealer of LinkedIn. Bez says, love your dog behind you. He ran out. He loves to bark at the worst possible time. In fact, I was up this morning at 3 a.m., a little bit of jet lag as well. And so Sammy and I were hanging out. By the time it was 8 a.m., I'd already had half the day going. So I've had my coffee. It is time to get on with the show. And I think it's time to actually go straight into the seated soliloquy, which, as you know, is always inspired by my guest. And today the seated soliloquy is called Stand Out. In order to stand out, you can't fit in. I mean, I think it's fairly obvious when you think about the essence of standing out from the crowd. Now, there are a variety of ways to think about it. There's that old saying, which is, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. I like that idea. Sometimes you just have to be a little bit better than everyone else. But of course, you don't get to excellence. You don't get to where you need to get to just by being a little bit better. You really need to be completely different. Differentiation. You need to be the red egg. You need to stand out like a sore thumb. And that's hard. Sometimes when you stand out, when you put your neck out, you suffer the risk of it being chopped off. And that is the danger. That is the risk associated with taking a chance. I always think about, I don't know if it was a Benny Hill or a Monty Python skit, but it's a scene in an army, and Sergeant Major says, I need a volunteer for a suicide mission. And everyone takes one step backwards, and there's some poor schmuck left standing. Sometimes you actually can stand out by standing firm, by not moving, by not shirking or shying away, but by just holding your ground. I think the concept of standing out is more important now than ever before, because we are operating in a time where there is so much noise, so much clutter, so much commoditization that everyone looks the same, everyone acts the same, everyone becomes the same. No one is afraid to be different. No one is afraid to take a chance. No one is afraid to take a risk. But my message to you, and certainly inspired by Joshua B. Lee, is stand out. Stick your, well, maybe not stick your neck out. Maybe, I don't know, stick your hair out. Be prepared to be different, to look different, to act different, because it is differentiation that ultimately allows us to not just move forward, but to pull away from the pack and ultimately to win. Now, Lubna says, why try fitting in when you were born to stand out? I think that's a great question. And maybe Joshua B. Lee will tell us a little bit about, how do you know if you were born to stand out? How do you step up and determine that it is in fact your time to stand out? Now, I want to tell you about a few things that I'm doing to stand out. As many of you know, I have a project now called Alpha Collective, and it's been very, very difficult to stand out when the sea of clutter or the noise is really a sea of not just mediocrity, and I don't even mean mediocrity, but fear and uncertainty and doubt, the FUD, when the noise is in fact the FUD. And so I'm so thrilled to tell you that today I will be lowering the price of an Alpha Collective pass to 1.25 ETH. It is the lowest it has been since the beginning, because ETH is the highest that it's been since the beginning. And soon I hope that I will be able to lower this price to 1 ETH, and who knows, maybe even go lower. But in addition, I made a commitment to invest 100 ETH back into the community. And so I turned to my community to be able to help power this collective. And so I made a promise that people could earn up to 1.5 ETH. And what I realize now is that people might actually get back 1.5 ETH for participating when they only paid 1.25 or 1 ETH. And as the old joke goes, how do I make money? Well, I make it up in volume. So that's one way that I feel, hopefully, I'll be able to stand out. And I've done one other thing as well, which is I've NFT'd myself, as many of you know. And from September 12th, no one except Alpha Collective members will be able to buy access to me in the form of a virtual, a North American in-person, or a global keynote. But I've actually taken it a step further. And it's probably something that I'm sure, as I say to Joshua who's watching, if you like the idea, steal this idea, use this idea. I've now instituted a new hold level, which is if you hold 1,000 JAFFE coin, 1,000, which is about $5,700, $5,800 based on today's rate, I will immediately issue you a virtual keynote NFT, which is valued at $15,000, and I'm selling it at the moment for $5,000. If you hold your 1,000 JAFFE coin and the NFT, in other words, you don't sell it, you don't redeem it, after 6 months, I will upgrade that to a North America keynote. And if you hold for another 6 months, so in other words, 12 months of holding 1,000 JAFFE coin and the NFT, I will upgrade that to a global keynote, which means I will fly anywhere in the world for anyone who redeems that keynote NFT. So these are ways that I am standing up. I am standing out, sticking my neck out. Who knows whether we'll succeed or fail? But my new mantra is, at the end of the day, I either succeed or I fail spectacularly. And that is my message for you. Stand up, stand out, and fail or succeed spectacularly. Well, here's someone who only succeeds spectacularly, and it is Joshua B. Lee. And I even have some music for him. Let me tell you a little bit about him. I rewrote his bio slightly. They call him the dopamine dealer of LinkedIn, and he's proud of that nickname. He's an entrepreneur, business owner, author, coach, marketer, and a very blessed husband and father. Now, way back in 2003, he built his career in online marketing with clients like MySpace and Google, with advertising spends of over $500 million, which generated over 35 trillion online impressions for these companies. He's been lucky enough to build 16 companies in his career, from online marketing to coaching to web design and more. But that's not his real passion. His real passion is creating lasting, meaningful, and most importantly, human connections. He's created Standout Authority, SOA, so he can work with entrepreneurs to help humanize their professional or company brand on LinkedIn using authentic, inspirational engagement for their clients or audience. Now, he also believes there's no such thing as work-life balance, only an integrated life built on a foundation of vision, relationships, passion, and business. How is that for an intro? Let's welcome into the show, Joshua B. Lee.
Hey, my friend. Wow, you read the whole intro and everything. I mean, I appreciate it. And
I took out one paragraph, which is,
thank God.
It was one that I think speaks to your vision. I loved all of it. I keep the stuff in that I think is relevant and resonant, and I love all of it. So especially the $1 trillion. So how
it's always
are you?
fun to be able to kind of go back and look at those things, and also the same time to be able to, the lessons that you learn from moving around all that traffic. I mean, it's just it's really shifted on where I am today, and all the things that I get to be able to do and learn from mistakes that I made in my past. I mean, Joseph, I loved it all.
Mistakes?
Man. Huh? Me? No.
I don't believe
perfect.
I only have perfect guests on the show because But okay, let's talk about a mistake, but let's talk about it from let's try and approach it from a different perspective, which people always say, I learn from my mistakes. I won't. I'll never do. What's a mistake that you made that you didn't learn from, that you regretted, that there was no upside coming out of that mistake other than you kind of figuring out, oh crap, that didn't work, let's go do something else? Or maybe that's the lesson.
I mean, it's a good question. I appreciate that, because most people are like, what's the biggest mistake you learned? And you learned the biggest lesson.
I hate making mistakes.
And they'll be like, oh, here's this thing, and I go through here. Joseph, it's funny as I kind of look at it. I mean, there's many things I could tell you. Recently, a year ago, I thought I was a amazing dancer, and I stepped into a circle, and I took about 5 steps in and tore my Achilles. That was a mistake that I made, and I didn't really learn a lot from, other than the fact that I probably am not the best dancer in the world.
Well, you can probably dance in the metaverse, I suppose.
There we go. It's as I get into my 40s now, the things that I used to do in my 30s don't come as easily, but I'm at least more thoughtful in what I do and the tact I actually take with it.
Well, I was trying to think about it. I asked the question in a roundabout way, and I was thinking, how would I answer the question? And, I mean, in some respects, I guess I say, well, I should have bought Bitcoin, but I was never in a position to buy Bitcoin. I think when I go back and I was telling someone today, when I wrote Life After the 30-Second Spot, 2 of the approaches, well, one of them was called consumer generated content, and YouTube didn't exist yet. And I think to myself, like, I spent my entire career commenting, predicting, positing, pontificating on all this shift and all this trend, and I never took advantage of it. And so in a way, maybe it's now where I am in my career. I'm like, I am not going to watch this Web3 thing pass me by again. So it's drawing on the pain, no lessons learned other than just don't do it again.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I think that's why you and I are both in that Web3 area and being able to go through. I mean, it would probably, kill a lot of people to be able to know that I did buy my first Bitcoin at $100 Bitcoin, and I bought $1,000 worth of it. And when it got up to 500, I was like, I'm rich. This is great. I'm going to get out. And so many years ago, I mean, I just happened.
And did you sell?
I did. Yeah. And that's the thing. Now, would I have lost it later on when I went through a divorce? Possibly, because I gave away everything and restarted. But it's these are those things that you kind of look at and go back and go, man, I was there. But I mean, it's not the first time, right? I mean, if you actually pay attention to just how we act in this world and we go through, I mean, the same things continue to be able to happen. And I've been really good over years being able to kind of predict, like getting in online advertising, buying some early Bitcoin. Should have predicted better that it would have went higher than I actually sold it at. And just all the different aspects. If you pay attention to the details, it's amazing what stories they will tell you and be able to lead in, just like watching a movie, right? There's about 5 different, total ways that a movie actually gets laid out. And if you actually pay attention to the beginning of the movie, you can pretty much predict what the end of it's going to be.
I love that. And so if I was to reframe the frame of the movie, I think what you're saying is, I think it's a very interesting thread here, which is, first of all, if you go back and watch a movie that you've watched already, where all the Easter eggs are there, all the clues are there, but were you paying attention? Were you actually? And so I think you're right. I think the threads, the crumbs are always in front of us. The question is whether we're paying attention and whether we can connect the dots. And I challenge, I suppose I'm going to do that next. A movie where there is a big aha or surprise or unexpected ending. Go back and watch the movie again and see if you could have seen it coming.
Did you ever see the movie The Usual Suspects?
Kaiser Soze, of course.
Yeah, of course. That was a movie that I don't think
brilliant, right?
Brilliant, but it wasn't the same the second time, right? You were just mind blown by the movie. But when you rewatch it again, you go back and look and you're like, oh my God, it was right there. It was in front of me. Oh, it was there. So, I mean, just like you're saying, I mean, that was one of those movies that you truly, everything was laid out in front of us because it was right in front of him. And then the movie actually played out that way. And it was a really just one of those movies I always go back to. I go, wow.
So if we took that thread now and brought it back to business,
Yeah.
what we really would be talking about is identify those key indicators, right? One of the things that I've always said is follow your consumer, because he or she or they will never lead you astray.
Right.
So you've got to be able to identify those key performance indicators. So what would you say are those KPIs now, or those indicators that litmus test that you follow now that leads you down the right path, or you hope is leading you down the right path?
Yeah, no, of course. And I mean, like, it's interesting that you use the word litmus test. I actually just did an article yesterday talking about a litmus test that I use with a lot of my clients, being able to go in, right? Being able to ask them on a regular basis, rate me 1 out of 10. Where am I at? Right? Being able to go through, be totally brutally honest, right? Because that's the only way we can actually understand. Everyone as entrepreneurs, as creators, as, you know, whatever we want to be able to call ourselves, we always believe we know the right path. But if we've never being able to ask the people that are around us, sometimes we're in a box. So, I mean, some of the KPIs that I look for is feedback, right? Being able to ask feedback, not only from the people that are working with me, but are working for me, and then I'm working for at the same time too. Being able to go through this, human nature is one of the biggest things and the biggest key indicators that I've ever seen to be able to go through. Because as humans, I mean, you know, just if I look at these different aspects, and, you know, in this world, we make decisions based on some degree of love or hate. Most people do not make decisions based on indifference, right? If you're indifferent, if you're creating content, if you're creating products or services that are indifferent, you're not only wasting their time, you're wasting your own. And that's the one resource we don't get back. So understanding what people and how they emotionally connect is one of the biggest ways for me to be able to understand what's happening. What's the emotional tie? What's the emotional trigger to what's happening in the environment, the products that are out there, what they've used, what they've liked, and then being able to take that and not just use it as information, but actually take actionable steps moving forward from the information. Because most people just gather information and go, wow, that's interesting. They don't actually take the actions on the information, and that's what creates positive change.
You get applause. The studio audience, which is really just my dog at the moment behind me. I mean, I want to restate that brilliant statement of yours, which is human nature is the ultimate KPI. Let that sit for a while, people that are watching. And I mean, that is a takeaway nugget second to, is that, you know, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And I think that even with doxing and undoxing and avatars and metaverse and all the stuff going on, people ultimately are still people, and they reveal their colors, their true colors, when the chips are down. You know, the old saying, which is you really know who your friends are when times are tough. You see who really is generous, who really is selfless, and I think that's just a really, really poignant point, which is just step back and watch humans being humans, and if they display that humanity, that empathy, I mean, you can't fake authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just what I always say, you know, I'll bet on a person every day of the week, because ideas come and go. But as a human being, human nature usually stays consistent on that person. So if you can be able to truly understand who they are, what they stand for, and what they want to accomplish and change in this world, I'll bet on that every day of the week. Right. So many people have ideas, but the wrong human beings behind them will never be able to come to fruition.
Yeah, and Lubna is agreeing that human nature is the ultimate KPI. Absolutely. And by the way, shout out to Glenn, who said he's off to Dubai and Nairobi.
Nice.
Hope to see you online while I'm away. This man gets around the world, and it's not a multiverse or a metaverse. Now, I want to take a step back, because everybody, you know, you live in a public domain. You're a very visible person. People love you, people worship you, people adore you. But would they feel the same way if they found out the dirty truth about Joshua B. Lee? And this is our section we call Fun Facts. Did you know, for example, that he competed on American Ninja Warrior? And we actually have,
look at that.
I mean, you're hanging on for dear life there, and your hair is perfect, let me tell you. Not one hair is out of place. I did search for a real photo, but I couldn't find one, so I went with this.
Well, it's funny too. That's about how big my head looked because I had to lose so much weight to try and be on that show. It looked like I had a huge head as I was kind of going through that. So I mean, you picked one even more perfect than it actually could have been.
Did you complete the course?
I did, yeah. So this was, I was in my early 30s, kind of going in, and 34. And my son was pretty young at that time. He was about 5, 6. We used to watch the show together. So that was one of the things that I used to watch with him. And one day he asked his dad, "Can you do that?" And I always wanted to show my son that, if you put the time, energy, and effort, you can accomplish anything in this world. So I said, yeah. He goes, okay. So that's what I did. I went through and I signed up. You have to complete a whole form, all this other stuff. They care more about your story than actually if you're athletic or not. And, I got on the show. I actually competed down at they had the arena down in Houston. And a lot of people, Joseph, don't realize that because it's just a whole bunch of metal and lights, it doesn't look good unless it's directly at night. So at that point in time, I think the show goes from like 10 p.m. at night to like 4 a.m. in the morning. So most people don't realize that the competitors on there are just doing this such at a late night that they rarely train at these times. But I went through the course.
That's why they fall into the water.
Yeah. And I mean, I went through the course. I did it. I made it to the next opportunity. But the problem was, one, at that time, they didn't allow children on the side stages to be able to be there and watch because it was still earlier on in the arena. So like for me, I did it for my kids. It wasn't about being on the show. So once it was time to be able to move on, I went through, I was blessed to be able to hit the buzzer and I was out. That's all I wanted to be able to do. I wanted to prove to my son that dreams were possible if you put the time, energy, and effort to it. And it was a good experience for me. And my wife at the time too told me, she's like, you're everywhere we go, you're hanging on things, trying to be able to do. And my friends used to be like, try and walk by me, and try and push me over. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, you're a ninja warrior. You should have balance. I'm like,
hey, listen, hanging on is 80% of the battle sometimes. It's, exactly. So there is an analogy there. Now, Joshua B. Lee has written a book called and you should buy. It's called Balance is How to Successfully Integrate. No, I can say it. Balance is Bullshit. How to Successfully Integrate Work and Life. But we'll talk about that later. I want you to look out for his new book. One of my little pet projects on the show is to tell people what their next book is going to be. And your next book is going to be called Dad, Can You Do That? I think it's a brilliant idea, which is think about the questions that our children ask us. We look for motivation in our life. We look for inspiration, but who better than a kid to look up to their father or their mother and be able to say, can you do that? And the answer, of course, is I can do anything that I set my mind to if I try hard enough, except dancing for you. But other than that, so Dad, can you do that wherever books are sold? There'll be an NFT of the book.
I like it. That'll be easier to go through because I mean the current title of the book too, with bullshit on there, it did really well, but at the same time, it was much harder to be able to put because it always got blurred out with the last line.
I feel your pain. I mean, my book Built to Suck. I was surprised how many conservative clients wouldn't actually go there because the word suck was concerned. I was like, there are a lot worse words out there. And if you think Built to Suck, then you suck. No, but it's funny, like when you go with something that is as, a word like that, which is so benign, it's amazing how many people recall. Maybe that's a mistake that I would change, or maybe I wouldn't. I don't know.
It kind of goes through. I mean, really, for me, the book was really written for me. It was being able to go through, Joseph, all the different things that, as an entrepreneur, as a man, as we're taught these different things in life, you're not supposed to be able to go through and talk about the things that, we talked about this earlier, right? The quote unquote mistakes that we made, the cracks in our life that we went through. And it led me to a path that even though I was running multiple different companies, 6, 7, and 8 figures, and everyone saw me outside looking in as successful, I was hollow on the inside. I was building everything for the goal of money. And when you make money and the almighty dollar, your main goal, it doesn't leave anything to be able to really grow from. And so for me, I remember, being able to go through this, and where the book really came from was a point in my life after my kids were born that honestly, I used to work at my home office and I always had my doors open. And at a certain point, Joseph, those doors closed, and that office, it became not only a sanctuary for me to be able to escape my life, but it also became a coffin at a certain point where I would, I contemplated my own life, my own meaning on this world, and if it would be better for my kids to be able to have the money that I was making because that was so important to everybody than myself. And not until I released that and I reset my life and my world and allowed money to be the byproduct of what I did, not the focus, is when I kind of went in. And that's what that book was for, to be able to kind of let everyone know the path that it led me to, some of the biggest mistakes that I felt that I made in my life, and to be able to open up the world and hope that one other person would either learn from the most mistakes and also never feel as alone as I did during some of those times.
Bear says, man, I love your story. And Lubna adds, there are so many people thinking that money will make them happy, but when they get there, there's no fulfillment. And I think it's also because the goalposts, right, keep shifting. And, you're rich, someone's richer than you. You're poor, someone's poorer than you. It's all relative. But the only thing that isn't relative is, your spouse, your partner, your children, yourself, your health, your self-love, etc.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. And I mean, those are those things that, that they kind of led me to be able to write that book and to be able to do what I do now, to be able to make that shift, right, Joseph? I mean, to be able to shift from how do I actually monetize? How do I get so much traffic? Because traffic is just traffic, but how do we actually, humanize? How do we actually connect with our audience? How do we build relationships, right? How do we have conversations and educate, inspire people, not sell to people? And that was the shift for me that really changed my life.
Yeah, it is beautifully said. And, I feel like I'm almost, I've taken something so sublime and I'm soiling it by going to another fun fact about you.
No, it's okay.
I mean, you're a genius. You're not just good looking, but you had a near perfect SAT score. And we actually have a photo of you when you got that near perfect SAT score, young Joshua. What did you get? What is it? It's out of
this was back
right?
in the day when I think they've changed it now, Joseph, compared to when, I was taking it. It used to be 1600 was a perfect score and I had a 1570. And I think now it's like out of 3000 and stuff of that nature. But it's such it's one of those things, right? I mean, being able to go through, being able to take tests. I was able to always be able to take tests, but I was also the kid too that would sleep in class and being able to go through. And I didn't realize till later, it was like, a lot of that ADHD, it was also being a young entrepreneur, being able to understand, always feeling outside looking in, right? I was able to be able to understand who I was connected with, the different groups, being that, I played football, all those different aspects, but I never felt like I fit in, not until I actually, started being able to connect with myself, but also being able to surround myself with others that were in the same realm of me and being able to go through. So to me, it was just a test. Tests were easy. Living, being around and connecting with other human beings was the difficult part for me until I finally realized and let go some of my own guard.
There's a beautiful segue or bridge from the idea of a standardized test to standing out.
Yeah.
Right. If you think about it, from standardized to, standing out, it's actually kind of like uncanny.
Yeah.
I found this quote for you today. Speaking of which, day by day, begin to stand out, be a difference maker. Fitting in with the crowd is robbing you of your destiny. I thought that was like such a powerful, powerful quote. It's by Hillel Nagda. And I was thinking, like, isn't that everything that's wrong with the world? Standardized testing. We're trying to make everybody, put them in a line out like the usual suspects, right?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of being able to really encourage people to break out and be different.
Yeah. I mean, it's people look at you like, oh, you're different. What's going on? It's like, why is that such a thing that goes through? And it's a level of control in this world, right? To be able to kind of go through. You keep everyone in line, right? Like you were talking about. I love the bring back for the reference to the movie, John. Being able to reference Usual Suspects, being able to take it right back in from what we talked about. But I mean, And that's the whole piece. It's a beautiful thing. You know, we're all perfectly imperfect, and that's okay.
I've had that theme throughout this experience of, you know, becoming a talk show host, perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect. And I think the original spark for that actually came from listening to Seth Meyers on Howard Stern. And they were actually talking about the concept of all the time wasting and cajoling that actually happens, the unproductive time in the office, how important that those imperfections were. And I love the idea that you actually need those human nature aspects of just shooting the shit or whatever the case may be to actually create a better environment, and a better productive environment. And it really was food for thought for me.
Yeah, I love that, man. And that's the whole piece, right? I always kind of look at it. It's like, you know, conversations build relationships, relationships create opportunities. So many people try to be able to jump from, you know, not even have the conversation to trying to find the opportunity in this world. And they forget about all the different little things that go into it to actually building those relationships and being able to get to know someone. We look for those commonalities. You try to be able to get, I mean, how do you and I get here, right? We've been having different things that happen in our life that go through, and now we get the opportunity for you and I to hang out, have some fun, talk about some imperfections that we see as just the way that we stand out, and allow the audience to be able to join in on the fun.
Yeah, and someone who's just joined in the fun is my mom, who's now watching. In
You
Cape
called
Town.
it. You said she would say watching.
And the funny thing is, I guess I was with her 2 days ago. It's so weird to think I woke up in South Africa on Monday and I was back in Connecticut on Tuesday, and now I'm back doing what I love, which is my show, and she's watching, which is absolutely awesome. So
Hi, Mom.
she gets so many shout outs. She's stealing my community. I don't know what she's doing. So no more photos of you badly photoshopped. Bez says, if I ever go on the show, I'm going to supply him the photos ahead of time. Well, Bez, you know that if you are a first customer on Alpha Collective, you get 5 minutes on the show. And I promise you can supply any photos to me. I will use the photos I choose to at my discretion. Let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn, because you are the Heisenberg of LinkedIn. You are the danger, the good danger. You know, I look at LinkedIn, and I wish I'd taken a screenshot of this, Joshua, but I saw a post the other day and said, why is it that most LinkedIn posts could just be responded to with the word yeah? And I was like, whoa, that's something interesting going on there.
Yeah.
Like, what's your take from that quote or from that post?
You know, look, I mean, you want to be able to kind of go through and be able to get interaction, right? The fuel of LinkedIn is comments. So people try to be able to go through and get the easiest way to be able to elicit a comment, which is yeah, right? That's what they're looking for. But that's just taking the easy route, right? That's what the tips and the tricks, right? Or the hacks that you're taught from so many, and I hate the word expert, like these LinkedIn experts that kind of go through, but where's the humanity in that, right? Where's the actually pushing the edge? Because you are not, really being, standing out, right? You're just trying to go through you're just taking the easy way because you don't want to be able to cause shuffle, be able to go through. I want to be able to go through as the same thing. We talked about this earlier. People are going to love or hate you, right? To some degree. If you're just creating content that you can go say, yeah, how's that standing out? How are you actually being polarizing on a platform that can be one of the most powerful platforms out there to be able to really draw your audience, your tribe, and create true value? Because not only are the audiences on LinkedIn looking at it, news stations and outlets across the globe use and reference LinkedIn and quality and grab people because of how they handle things, how they actually stand out, how they are different at being able to go through there. So it's a platform. You don't just put content for content's sake. You're just taking up space. The old saying, Joseph, it's content is king. That's not the case anymore. Content isn't king anymore. I'm sorry. There's so much content. I mean, Joseph, have you ever been on a night? I know it happens to my wife and I. Ever been on Netflix and been like, God, there's nothing to watch?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's wrong. There's too much to watch, right? We're overloaded with information. So I mean, there's so much content out there. It's not content is king anymore. It's quality is queen. How do you actually create quality content? I mean, like, dude, I'm loving this podcast. I mean, all the different things that you're putting up there, it's so unique and different. Of all the, I mean, hats off to you, my friend. Because again,
and look, and you know what, I take notes.
I like it.
I take notes because I try and capture these insights, in the moment.
Yeah.
And then I now, part of this whole, we'll talk about your coin in a moment. Part of the holding economy is that people that hold 25 coin can now get access to these show notes. It's just a way
awesome.
of allowing people to, to fast track their way to the nuggets and the sound bites. But it's just another way that I've tried to like create something differentiated to stand out.
Yeah.
But truthfully, and thank you for what you said, I believe the show stands out. But I also realize that I'm competing with I'm competing with everything. It's like Coca-Cola once said they were competing for share of stomach. And then they expanded that to say they were competing with Apple. Why? Because 99 cents at the time, you either downloaded a song from iTunes or you bought a Coke. So it depends on how broadly you define your set and your perspective in terms of standing out.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's great. I mean, it's just being able to go through and be able to have that kind of thing. I mean, that's the biggest thing. People look for, oh, well, I want to create a podcast, and they just do the same thing over and over again. And we're overloaded with that, right? Or they're like, oh, I'm going to create content because that's what I was told to do. Well, stop doing the things that you're told to do and do the things that make you excited, that get you going in the morning, that fulfill you. Because if you continue to be able to do all the things that you're just told to do, that's an exhausting life to be able to live. There's so many more opportunities to be able to do that. I think that's why you and I did the creator coin, being able to go, everyone's like, oh, you can't do that. Don't get in that community. It's too early. It's too hard. Why? Because that's what you believe. We're going to show you how to be able to, get in and be able to be a part of something that actually we believe is the future, where it's going. I mean, this is why you and I are in that space, because we're changing perspective. We're giving something people new. We're being able to go through. I love it because of the fact that it's really shifting how we actually connect and engage with our audience. It's creating a win-win for everybody. And I mean, I think that's the beautiful thing about that world that you and I, that creator economy, that Web3, the creator coin that we're both involved in.
I want to build on that for a second, and I'm still marinating on the concept of, in fact, as the old saying used to go, 1,000 channels and still nothing to watch.
Yeah.
And what you really are saying is, of course, there's a lot to watch. You just don't have the rubric or the key, the cipher, to be able to determine where your energy should lie or where your attention should go, and how you should, and how much staying power and patience you have to discover, to be surprised. There's so much meat to that statement, which is of course, there's you go through the Clubhouse screens or whatever, it's we have to actually be more disciplined to actually stay the course and allow ourselves to, because I'll tell you one thing that I can tell you right now, we could end the show like this second, and there are so much like nuggets. Like, I want to go back and rethink this idea of, guess what, on LinkedIn, number one, journalists are reading. Number two, how do you define a meaningful LinkedIn post? Not by the post, but by the actual comments in the post. That is like mind-blowing in terms of an insight.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's that whole piece. And that's what we're trying to be able to do, is shift people's perspective on that platform. Because, Joseph, so many people see, especially on LinkedIn, they see it as a business platform. It's either B2B or B2C. But in all honesty, every company is run by another human being. Most marketers forget that. So it's really all H to H, human to human. And how do you actually connect with another human being? If you and I were just sitting here talking, and every time you ask me a question, I say, yeah. People would already tune out.
It's the LinkedIn post,
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, I've been an agency guy where the agency presents the report to the client and they go, these are many retweets, these are many likes, these are many comments, and they're not, and some of them will look at sentiment. Well, what is year? Year is like indifferent, apathy. It's the very thing that it's the enemy that both you and I despise, right? It's people that have no opinion, that are just indifferent towards you.
Yeah. Well, they've been raised in this world to be scared of being able to stand out because of being able to go through, and it sucks. And the only way we're going to be able to shift that and be able to make this world a better place. I mean, look, Joseph, I tried to change this world on my own. As I mentioned before, it damn near killed me. I know now I've got to be able to partner and work with amazing humans like yourself and everyone listening to be able to create positive change. The only way to be able to do that is we have to support each other. We have to be able to cheer each other on. And we have to be able to stand up for the people that actually get stepped on for being able to stand out. And that's the only truly way, because I've got kids in this world and I want to make sure that I leave it for a better place for them and then their children to be able to come on forward. And the only way to do that, fitting in, is not going to do that.
Wow. I mean, it's another great point. The difference between standing up, standing out, and avoiding people being stamped on as well. Like, we have a responsibility to stand up, and by standing up, you do stand out. That was the other point I was going to make, which is when you stand out, you are often, that analogy of the suicide mission. You're standing alone and it is lonely, and you're going to be just absolutely cut down because there's no one to your left or your right, no one to your left. And I guess it requires a great deal of courage and bravery.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's what the whole thing is. That's what we've got to be able to support and be able to be okay with. And, being able to get those and understand that we're not alone. When I was going through a lot of that, I felt like I was alone. And that's why I share so much about my own personal life, what's going on, where I've been, not hiding from it. Right. Because I want someone else to go, oh, me too. I went through that. I'm not alone. There is someone else out there. Maybe I can too. Right. That's what we're looking for. And the more that you and I and everyone listening is okay with being able to go and knowing that they're not alone and that other people will stand beside them, that's what they need. And that's what will truly put us on a better path than the current path that we're on right now.
I feel that you and I were meant to meet and connect, because it's almost like this is like the equivalent of jazz scatting or riffing. Because as you were talking, I was like brain is hurting. I was thinking the word indifferent. I love words, right? The word indifferent means not different, right? When you are not different, someone will be indifferent towards you because you're just the same. You're not standing out. So the concept, the very thing that we're talking about, they don't love you, they don't hate you, they're indifferent. It's because you chose the safe path. You chose not to stand out, and therefore you will be forgotten.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. Beautiful way to be able to say it.
I'm I'm running out of space here. I'm going to take a brief break because it is Wednesday. So it is, as I wrote in my tweet today, it's not hump day, it's bump day, in terms of give somebody else a bump, help move them along, help inspire them to the next level. But our correspondent on Wellness Wednesday is Whitney Lauritsen, who has the Well coin. We're all fellow coin holders. You're a dopamine dealer, and we are coin holders. But this is Whitney with her contribution today.
One of the most common emotional challenges is feeling a lack of focus, feeling distracted. For me, I get extremely distracted by sounds that are coming from outside. For example, I sit at my desk in front of these windows, so I have to structure my entire business day, especially when it comes to recording audio and video, around any noise that might be outside, like gardeners, or being mindful of my dog barking. I always have to put her in a different room. I just got a ding from... This is perfect timing, not planned, but a ding from a notification. So I always need to turn off my phone. Usually I turn off my computer, set up this whole environment so I'm not thinking about something other than what I'm trying to focus on. So I want to share a few tips. So as I mentioned, do not disturb is great, or whatever it's called on your devices. You can do this not only on your phone, on your computer, as well as any sort of advice or any sort of device that would make some sort of sound unexpectedly. So prepping for that. Can you ask the people that you live with or people that are around you, your children, perhaps your roommate, your family members, like whoever else is in your environment, to be mindful of your needs? But we can't always control that, right? There are a few other tools that are really helpful for things that I don't have as much control over. One is I love playing focus music. There are tons of great playlists on Apple Music, on Spotify, on YouTube. You just type in the keyword focus music, and there are all sorts of options for you that can get you in the rhythm. Some of them feel very high paced. Some of them feel slower and more relaxed. Some of them are made with something called binaural beats, which actually can impact the brain waves somehow. It's pretty neat and works really well with headphones. Headphones are also really great. I have a pair that have noise cancellation on them that works really nicely, but sometimes just wearing them and listening to music or even white noise can be incredibly effective if I'm not having a conversation. Speaking of white noise, I have a dedicated white noise machine, which is brilliant for not just sleeping, but times where I just need to drown out some other noise. And again, if I'm not recording, this works really well, such as music coming from the neighbors, people talking loudly outside, dogs barking. And lastly, the latest thing that I've been trying to help me focus and stay calm, as well as drown out any sounds that might be pulling my attention away, is some special earplugs. I just bought these from a brand called Loop. They're very cool and fashionable. They fit really nicely into my ear. They can be used in a variety of different situations, not just work, but concerts, loud events, when you're in crowds, whether you're in a space where you just feel completely overwhelmed by all the noise. So I'm excited to try those out and see how effective it is for me. So please give these things a try. Even if you don't feel like you get that unfocused from noise, you might be surprised when you implement one of these things into your life, how much better you're able to pay attention.
Is that on your end or is that on my end?
I hope one of my kids aren't crying like that still.
That was Bez. That was Bez who was watching, who was unhappy with something. No, I think trying to focus and concentrate is really, really hard. I mean, it's something that I still can't figure out the right environment. Sometimes I try, like, I don't know, like white noise as well. What do you do to kind of like put your head down and get some work done?
What do you mean, the squirrel? What?
Yeah. Because you said you have ADHD, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I was diagnosed young as a kid. My son deals with it. My daughter has dyslexia. So, really understanding these different aspects. One of the biggest things that I've started being able to do it's how I start my day, right? Being able to go through, and I love listening to Whitney and being able to go through there because it's the same thing, right? How you start your day is how you continue your day to be able to go through. Being able to focus, being able to make sure I power myself up, right? Just most people, when they kind of go start their day, what's the first thing you think the average person does in this world? First thing they do when they wake up.
Oh, check their phone.
Yeah, exactly. They reach for this thing and they go through, and you set precedents that the outside world is more important than you. That's what you're doing. You're setting the precedents for the rest of the day. The world didn't stop spinning. Your business didn't blow up. Nothing, if that was going to happen, guess what? You get a phone call, right? If the world was on fire, you would get a phone call. So looking at your socials, being able to go through, you have to be able to go through. So for me, being able to start my day by going through, to be able to take time to meditate, to be able to read, to be able to work out, spend time with my family before I look at the TV, before I look at my phone, before I look at my email, allows me to be able to set that precedence every single day. That allows me to be able to continue it through the rest of the day. So I don't have that conditioning of being able to be first distracted right in the morning.
I wish I could do that. you know, I'm looking at my phone even in the middle of the night, which is not great. But I've got work
You
to
gotta
do.
plug that phone in another room, then, Joseph. You know, and just
Well, maybe. I mean, the opposite, I guess, of melatonin is dopamine, and so I want to make sure in our last few minutes together, and hopefully there will be more of this. In fact, I have to extend an invitation to your wife as well, because I know you work together as a couple. I've had Dave and Carrie Kirpin on the show separately, so you know, so it's like the newlywed game. So I get to ask you questions about her.
See who has the best ratings for their podcast with Joseph. I love
exactly. I like that. I'll give you some JAFFE coin. You can give me some SOA coin. This is actually a quote from Donnie Borvin, who was on the show. Attention is the way social primates measure status. It is highly rewarding because it causes the release of brain chemicals such as dopamine and endorphins. I'd love to get your perspective in terms of, you know, as you are the dopamine dealer of LinkedIn. I think we've had a meaningful conversation today about this idea of avoiding the indifference, avoiding the years, looking for the meaningful comments. What do we do to get ourselves away from these quick hits and these, you know, these rushes, to create something that I think is more meaningful and enduring on a platform like LinkedIn?
Well, you know, just that's an amazing question, because, you know, the reason why I was deemed the dopamine dealer of LinkedIn is how that we actually train and condition people, because it was on another podcast I was at, and the podcast came out and like, Joshua Beatley, the dopamine dealer of LinkedIn. I was like, oh, it kind of stuck, right? And being able to look in there, the way that I look at dopamine going through, if you have continuous dopamine hits, it doesn't actually put you in a heightened state, which a lot of people think of. Dopamine actually puts you, if you have continuous hits of them, in a flow state, being more focused towards that object or objective. And so that's where I want people to kind of think about, right? The things that I do online and we actually teach are just the same things that my mother taught me how to be able to treat other human beings, right? We're just doing it online, being able to go through. So when you're doing that, how are you getting people's attention? Well, the human way, not worrying about the LinkedIn algorithm, the Facebook algorithm, or the Twitter algorithm. Worrying about and understanding the human algorithm is what will really be able to push you forward. The human algorithm is being appreciated. We all love that, right? Being able to create stopgaps in someone's pattern. Our current state of being online is to like, comment, share posts, like, comment, share posts. We've been conditioned over the last 20 years. If you've watched the movie, The Social Dilemma, they've shown us this, what these companies have been doing. Well, what I figured out, Joseph, was if I want to grab someone's attention, reach out to them. They looked at especially on LinkedIn, I can see who looks at my profile. On any platform, I can see who engages in my content. Reach out. Hey, Joseph, I saw you looked at my profile recently. I just want to reach out and say thank you. You know, too often we forget to be able to appreciate someone for doing the little things. I'd love to be able to connect with you and find out what pushed you to check me out. Hey, Joseph, I just want to reach out and say thank you for liking my recent post. Being able to send someone a personalized message of appreciation, because in this world, we forget to appreciate the little things in life. We take them for granted so much. And there's so many things. When you start doing these things and you actually appreciate people for things that they take for granted, it's amazing how much you can shift their perspective and be able to start building those conversations that create the relationships and open up opportunity.
I'm just smiling from ear to ear, because what I do is I've fallen into the trap of looking at people as just ads. And I'll be honest, like I'll go and I'll see the following people have looked at your profile, and I just go, what I do is I just add them all.
You're playing Pokemon online then. You just collect them all. You don't need to collect them all.
It's terrible. And all I need to do, it's a tell. It's a tell that I've been ignoring until today, this moment. Instead, you know, I always say the tell is when a client asks you, or you're in a presentation, someone says, can we get your slides? That's a tell. Rather than say, sure, just say, which slide in particular do you like? Yeah. How can I answer you? How can I expand on that? Oh, you like that slide? Wait till you see what else I've got. Yeah. And so, I mean, that is a power takeaway, which is, that's the crumb. That's the crumb. It's right there in front of your face.
There it is.
It's Kaiser Soze. You are the Kaiser Soze of LinkedIn, not the.
Oh, I mean, that would be an honor. I mean, I'll be honest. That was one of my favorite movies for so long. So
you are the master. You are the master. I want to make sure in our time left over that you know that you can go and buy Balance is Bullshit, How to Successfully Integrate Work and Life, and everybody needs to do that. Support the SOA Creator Coin. Tell us a little bit briefly, and then I want to make sure that I also flag your amazing community. Tell us some of the things that you are planning, that you have planned for the coin and ultimately the community.
You know, I'll tell you, Joseph, I mean, I was listening to you earlier on the things that you're doing. I need to take a couple lessons there. You're doing some amazing things. And I'll tell you, for us, it's all about the family, right? So here's our hat, right? We use so long having the last name of Lee. If I can get it right. There we go, right? Having the last name Lee, I was like, oh, it's L-Y, right? Being able to go through. So we just shifted that, right? Family for me, being an only child is so important. So that's what we created, a community for our family, right? To be able to go through, being able to not only educate on what I've learned over the last 20 years being an entrepreneur on LinkedIn, all those other things, but also for my wife, Rachel, what she learned from being in the corporate world, running with big companies like Microsoft and Gartner, running their branding, and we share those. But that's what it's all about. How do we actually get the level to be able to have better conversations, deepen relationships, and have coins? Like we just announced today that in September, we're going to do a family dinner, right? Anyone that's holding 1,000 coins is going to get invited to Austin, Texas, and have a family dinner with Rachel and I, and at our home, right? Being able to go through. So there are little things like that. Everything we do, yes, this is that whole thing, right? Being able to, what are we focusing on? Could I go through and just give a whole bunch of LinkedIn information? We do that. We have the marketing and branding, but we want that to be the byproduct of building the relationships and the family that we're doing in the community.
South by Southwest 2023. Maybe we do a little bit of a joint partnership.
I missed you this last time at South by. I know, man. That was amazing, South by.
The time of my life. But hold JAFFE and SOA coin and we'll have an expanded dinner.
Let's do it. I am 100% in. I mean, we're there. I've been going to South by Southwest, Joseph, since 2020.
First time without a mask for me there. And I was just, I was like, I basically calculated that the odds of me not having COVID were 0.00,
I didn't get it that time.
And I didn't.
South by Southwest has changed a lot in the last 20 years. I mean, when I first started going in 2000 and now it's amazing to be able to see. This last time it was all about NFTs, right? You were there.
Yeah, I was.
Oh, there we are. There's our picture.
So this is the community and join it. I mean, come on. So I will just, and this will tell you a little bit about access to the Discord, all the different levels of SOA. And so I am just go to standoutauthority.com/community and join the family. Join the family. Bez is going to buy the book. Lubna says it's going on your wish list, on her wish list.
See, that's what we need to do. Anyone in the community at a certain level, I'm going to be like anyone that's at the 25 coin level. We're just going to start getting out copies to everybody. See, I learned something new every time.
I'm telling you that it's all part of being part of I just want to be part of the extended family. And
you're in our family now, Joseph. Don't worry about it.
And you know who else wants to be in the family? It's Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And I will be back tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Joshua, at last we met.
There we go.
It was wonderful. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.